Carlos Patindolf, a second-year BS Criminology student from Section Delta. So for today, I'll be discussing the Gresham, Sykes, and David Matza's neutralization theory. So this theory was developed in the year 1957, and it focuses on how people who commit deviant or criminal acts try to justify what they have just done. So instead of seeing themselves as a bad people, they find ways to make their actions seem acceptable. So according to this theory, most delinquents still believe in the same moral values as a law-abiding citizens. The difference is that they use mental excuses, or what we call techniques of neutralization, to temporarily suspend those morals so they can commit the act without feeling guilty. So in simple terms, it's like telling themselves that what they did wasn't really wrong, or that it was okay in that situation. So they try to justify their actions. So the theory identifies 5 techniques of neutralization, which are: first, we have the denial of responsibility. Second is the denial of injury. Third is the denial of the victim. Fourth is the condemnation of the condemners. And lastly, we have the appeal to the higher loyalties. So these techniques helps offenders justify their actions before or after committing a crime. So starting with the first technique, which is the denial of responsibility. This means that the offender believes their actions were not their fault. They say they had no control over what happened, or what they were forced by others or by the situation. So for example, a teenager might say, "It's not my fault, I joined the fight." So this is about a child or someone who got into a fight and tried to excuse that their friends are the one who pressured them to be in the fight, or to be into the fight, or something like that. Or someone who steals might say, "I grew up in a poor family, I had no choice." So these cases shows how people try to shift the blame away from themselves. They claim they were just a victim of circumstances, bad company, or bad luck. The main idea here is that by denying responsibility, they can protect their self-image. They don't have to see themselves as a bad person, just someone who was influenced or trapped by others. So let's look deeper into some examples and effect of this technique. So a common example is a drunk driver who says, "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I was drunk, I was under influence, and I didn't know what I was doing." Or another example is when a student who cheats and says she or he had no time to study because their teacher gave them too many assignments, homeworks, activities, projects, and so on. So in both cases, they refuse to take full responsibility. This mindset allows them to avoid guilt or punishment in their minds. The effect of this is serious. When people keep denying responsibility, they never learn accountability. It also makes it easier for them to repeat the same mistakes. So in criminology, this is important because many offenders use this reasoning when caught. It helps us understand how criminals rationalize their behavior instead of admitting guilt. So the second technique is the denial of injury. This happens when offenders believe that their actions didn't really hurt anyone. They think that since no one was directly harmed, then their act is not a real crime. The typical phrase is, "There's no real victim here." For example, when someone downloads pirated movie or music online, they often says it's not a big deal, or When someone vandalizes property, they might say, it's just a wall. They can repaint it, or it's just a wall. It can be repainted over. So in this way, the person minimizes the seriousness of their behavior. They see it as harmless fun or just a small rule breaking. However, in reality, every act has consequences. Even if the damage seems small, denying injury makes people numb to the real harm caused to society or property owners. Now let's move to the third technique, which is the denial of the victim. This is when offenders believe that the person they hurt deserved it. They justify their actions as revenge or paybacks. For example, someone who bullies a classmate might say he started it first, so he deserved it. Or a hacker might say, I only attacked the scammer website because he was cheating people. He was scamming innocent people. So in this way, the offender no longer sees the victim as innocent. Instead, they use themselves as someone delivering justice. Physiologically, this is dangerous because it turns anger or revenge into justification. It blurs the line between justice and the wrongdoing. The fourth technique is the condemnation of the condemners. This is when the offenders blames others instead of accepting fault. They point out the flaws of hypocrisy or hypocrisy of those judging them. For example, a student caught cheating might say, even the teacher doesn't follow the rules. Or a corrupt might say, why blame me when everyone in government does the same thing? By doing this, the offender shifts attention away from their wrongdoing and focuses on others' mistakes. This attitude creates a sense of moral equality. They feel that since others are guilty too, they have no right to judge. It's dangerous because it destroys respect for law and authority. When people think everyone is corrupt, they use that as a reason to justify their own deviances. So the last or the fifth technique is called the appeal to higher loyalties. This is when a person commits a deviant act to show loyalty to someone or something they value more than the law. For example, a friend might lie to the police to protect their best friend, or a gang member shows a fight to defend their group's reputation. They believe that breaking the law is acceptable if it's for a greater purpose, such as a family, friendship, or honor. This shows how loyalty can sometimes override moral rules. In the eyes of the offender, they are doing what's right for their group, even if it's wrong in the society's eyes. So I'll share more example in real life application to the appeal to the higher loyalties. So one example is a student who hides the truth to protect a classmate from punishment. Another is a family member covering up a relative's crime because they don't want them to go to jail. So these people think they are doing the right thing because of love or loyalty, but in reality, they are still breaking the law. This technique is common among gang members or groups that value loyalty above everything else. In criminology, understanding this helps us see how social bonds can influence crime. Sometimes people commit crimes not out of greed or hate, but out of loyalty or duty to others. So in conclusion, the neutralization theory shows us that people or persons often, or individuals often justify their deviant acts using these 5 techniques. Understanding these helps criminologists analyze criminal behavior and design better rehabilitation programs, because before we can change behavior, we must first understand how people think when they do wrong. So that's all, everyone. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned. Thank you.